Everybody, welcome to our State of the Institute address. As people kind of load in here to our session today, a few maybe logistical reminders along the way. So as I start to see a bunch of people kind of flowing in, thanks for your attendance. I'm going to monitor this here a little bit so we could get everybody loaded up before I dive into our content for today. If you guys have questions along the way, feel free to use the chat. So there's a Q&A and there's a chat. If you use the chat, I can monitor that along the way. And we'll basically, over the next maybe 45 minutes, dive into not just kind of where the market is today, where it came from, last year, where we believe it is today and where it's going, but we'll talk about the future. We'll talk about the Exit Planning Institute and our role as exit planning advisors, and more specifically as certified exit planning advisors. So again, thank you all for attending. Looks like we have a good group together. So we're going to dive in with our State of the Institute address for 2023. So for those of you that I might not know or may not know me well enough on our State of the Institute address today, just a quick maybe introduction and maybe even more so a conversation and or comment on why I'm passionate about what we do here at the Exit Planning Institute. My name is Scott Snider. I'm the president of the Exit Planning Institute. Own the business with my father, Chris Snider. And for those of you that don't know Chris, Chris is the founder of or creator of the value acceleration methodology, a methodology that we'll certainly talk to today, and a methodology that many of all of our certified exit planning advisors learn while coming through the CEPA program. That methodology this year, we celebrate 10 years of the value acceleration methodology. So certainly a big year for us. We also celebrate, certainly we'll talk to this throughout our State of the Institute address today. But we also have a new Walking to Destiny book coming out as well in March. At the end of March of this year, this year. So with that, again, maybe a little bit about why I'm passionate about what we do here at the Exit Planning Institute. So number one, I'm an exited owner. So back in 2010, I had spent about 10 years building and then eventually sold my first company. And that put me on the trajectory that we are today. If you've heard this story before, you kind of know that it was really my first lesson with exit planning, if you will. Certainly when we went to sell the company, my dad's a certified exit planning advisor, so we certainly were armed with a little bit more intelligence to the process than many owners that we see, I think, today exiting who are not using certified exit planning advisors. But I think where we lacked in my first exit was the personal planning, what many owners lack today. 75% of owners still profoundly regret selling their business just a year after selling it. Spent about a year or so kind of figuring out who I was. What I realized is that I had let my business define me. And then I moved into Aspire Management, which was my dad's consulting firm, where he was practicing as a CEPA, like many of you guys are out there doing today. And what we quickly realized together was that I think the purpose and really the meaning of what we were doing was a lot bigger than just working in Ohio, which is where we're certainly from, Cleveland, Ohio. And we wanted to work, instead of just individually with a dozen owners at a time, work with thousands of advisors across the United States to really bring the advisory team together around business, personal, and financial goals or elements around a common framework and process that's today known as the value acceleration methodology, and allow the advisor to really collaborate better with each other and really connect to the owner in a much bigger way. So in 2012, Dad and I bought the Exit Planning Institute. In 2013, we put the value acceleration methodology into the core curriculum of the CEPA program, and it has evolved over the last 10 or so years today. We'll also talk about research. We'll particularly focus in today for our State of the Institute address on our most recent research that has come out of the state of Colorado. But generally, I think another good celebration, right, is 10 years of the State of Owner Readiness Survey being out in the market. We conducted that nationally back in 2013, and then regionally every year, really throughout. And last, I think, but not least, another notable 10-year anniversary. It's also the 10-year anniversary of the Excellence in Exit Planning Awards, recognizing a member of the year, a thought leader of the year, and the exit planning of the year, of people really putting the methodology into practice, creating content, driving thought leadership, and driving it all forward. If I had really a theme for the State of the Institute address this year, I would say the first word that comes to mind is evolve. I think that over the last 10 years is really a profession. We have evolved into what we see today, and I think the timing could never be better. So little bit about me for those of you that don't know. So I want to spend some time in our opening of our State of the Institute address talking about talking about our current market conditions, maybe focusing on 2021, which we know was a kind of an epic year, if you will, a banner year for the M&A market. Have huge activity, huge valuations. I think that, and if you talk to many people, particularly operating in the space, maybe in folks like yourself, I think from the outside looking in, we see that the market has kind of dropped from 2021 to 2022. So I think it's a great market still. I think we're still well positioned as professional advisors and business owners who want to transition and sell companies if we have the right business and if we're ready. But I think the statistics, the data would show a little bit of a drop from 2021 to 2022 in terms of M&A activity and valuations. Now, I think you got to take that a little bit with read more, in the fine print, because we've dropped from a banner year, right? We've dropped from one of the biggest years in history of M&A and valuation. So although we dropped, I don't think we're worse off really by any means. I'll talk a little bit about this in the future of our profession here momentarily. But in working with our partners, where we kind of get together all of our data and in partnership with our CEPA faculty, I kind of bring you these insights as well. So I think another great year for M&A activity. If you looked at those owners that are positioned to exit early this year or that did exit last year, their exit motivators primarily are still the same as what we saw as we kind of concluded 2021. For the owners that sold last year in 22, they cited age, health, economic outlook, and market conditions, right? Valuation still high. If you have a good company and you could take it, you might. Economic outlook uncertain, I think at best. Age and health, I think that as we kind of dive into some of the below statistics and just looking at the average age of a business owner in the United States and some of the other data that we find through State of Owner Readiness Survey and other partners, we find that age and health for the person that's 55 to 65 years old, certainly on their mind, thinking about what they want to do in the next act or phase of their life. I can tell you it certainly hits our family as my parents now. Chris has grandkids. And I think that at somebody that's in his early 60s, definitely just takes a different perspective on life. If you've heard me talk to this in other webinars, sharing our story, I've never seen my dad do so much personal planning and personal financial planning and estate planning ever than I've seen over the last couple of years. So I think that using dad as perhaps a baby boomer example and looking at these exit motivators, I think they kind of play along as well. Now he has a nice business partner, I'd like to think. So we've certainly done a nice job of decentralizing Chris from the business, but nonetheless, certainly I believe on many people's minds. When looking at people that have bought companies, they've described really two major things for the most attractive and highest multiple companies. One is all around the employee retention, internal employee growth, culture building, very attractive to buyers of companies. Number two, the use of technology to really optimize and streamline everybody's time, right? I think that one, we want to get more productive. But I also, as you think you'll see, as we talk about the generational characteristics, I think that one, the generations play into this. But we're also here a lot, I think, in today's world is moving from this 5-day work week to 4-day work week. How can we optimize everybody's time so that we can get the same amount done in literally less days of the week? So I think the use of technology to streamline and optimize and maybe systematize the company also very attractive. The deal killers, I think, are really the ones that we see all the time, whether we're 2022 or back even 10 years ago. Certainly, when they got down to it, what killed the deal was something like price, terms, and eroding financials. So I think things that we see all the time for certified exit planning advisors that maybe are fresh from the CEPA program, price and terms. We talk a lot about that with Chris throughout his modules. Certainly talk a lot about that with Scott, our M&A instructor as well. But price and terms, eroding financials, still, I think, very similar to what we've seen in the past. the big thing that I think the professional advisors and really our entire audience needs to realize, though, and probably the most important thing, regardless of how the market's looking, is that over the past 2 years, we've had a major shift in overall business owner demographics. So if you kind of rewind back 10 years to when the value acceleration methodology was really put into place, and rewind even back to the founding book, the $10 trillion opportunity, which Pete and Rich, the original founders of EPI, wrote together, investigating this overall marketplace and arguably starting this exit planning profession, we found that 60% of the businesses were owned by baby boomers. Well, that has changed. That is down to 51% of the market today, privately held business owner market, is owned by baby boomers, while way up is 43% is owned by people between the ages of 36 and 56 years old. So primarily that Gen X generation, right? That generation that's right behind the baby boomers. But you're also at the 36-year-old age range, really 36 to call it 40. You're catching the top end, or perhaps referred to sometimes as the cuspers, the top end of the millennials into the Generation X, right? So 43% though owned by people between 36 and 56 years old. So I think significant, and I want to talk about that in our next slide, where I talk a little bit to where I think the future of exit planning is going. And then lastly, to round out that group of people, we find that 6% are owned by people 35 years old and younger. I think an interesting note here when you look at generational characteristics is that baby boomers and Gen Xers are very different generally or characteristically when you study their generation. I think it matters for us as certified exit planning advisors. I also find in kind of preparation and in reading tons of research over the past couple of weeks for this very State of the Institute address, I found that I always thought too, this one was kind of an aha moment for me, was that many when I think startup entrepreneurs, I always think about younger folks in their 20s kind of taking like tech companies, if you will, starting and taking them to market. But if you look at it, they find that most startup companies are actually started by people in their 40s. And so I think that also plays into the overall characteristics, overall demographics, and the overall exit planning profession as well. But I think the biggest note for us to take as people that are involved in the Exit Planning Institute, people that are business owners, advisors to business owners, and certainly our certified exit planning advisors, is that the market is changing and has changed. And I think over the next 10 to 15 years, it'll be a frankly wildly strong and positive market for advisors and business owners who can spend and will spend the time focusing on the value acceleration methodology or the value acceleration centric lifestyle to build better companies and frankly have better lives as people, as business owners. But I think that there couldn't be a better time for our profession overall. I don't think there could be a better time for the certified exit planning advisor to enter the market. And I don't think there could be a better time for advisors generally who want to work with business owners, primarily just based on the market itself. That's why I say a 10, and I went back and forth on this, back and forth on this particular first bullet point when I look at the future, because I think that we could even stretch all the way out to a 15-year span of just unbelievable growth and positive exits. And I say that looking at the demographics. So if you fast forward, just take our primary audience. So although back on our previous slide, I said that the market has been shifting to these Gen Xers and millennials. We've gone from 60% owned by the baby boomer to 51%. I think that it's going to still be our primary market. And I think that we have an opportunity to really get to these owners now, help them focus on the next 5 to 10 years, so that we as certified exit planning advisors can really produce some very successful and holistic exits to showcase to the next generation of owners, frankly, an entirely new way of doing business and living life as an entrepreneur. So if you fast forward just 10 years, the youngest baby boomer in 10 years will be 68 years old. The oldest baby boomer will be 87 years old. And likely the average baby boomer in 10 years will be something around 72 to 75 years old, depending on how everything plays out. So in my opinion, when you just look at other statistics from organizations like E&Y, who have discovered that owners start really thinking about transition, succession, and the next phase of their life at average age 67, I think that the next 10 years, we've talked about kind of exit planning always being present tense. It's one of the challenges that we face, that most owners today think that it's something that you do when you're ready. Well, now it's more in an owner's face than it ever has been before. You take things still like an uncertain, perhaps, economy, still kind of coming out or done with a pandemic and what that might have done for their company, and still good multiples. I think that we'll see many baby boomer business owners saying, look, I might not get what I exactly want for my company, but I can get what I need for my company. And over the next 5 to 10 years, I will sell. I also think that if you look at then the next 10 years and you look at the generation right below baby boomers, the Gen Xers, well, in 10 years, Gen X will be 53 years old at youngest and 67 years old at oldest. So again, if the average owner is starting to think about transition and exit in the next, by age 67, the top end of those Gen Xers in 10 years will be thinking about, okay, what do I do with the next act of my life? Now, I don't think that statistic, this average that E&Y found, will actually stay that way. I think it'll become much younger. I think that if you just look at the characteristics of the Gen Xer, and not just a Gen X owner, but as a Gen Xer generally as their characteristics and attributes, I think this is a generation that is prime time for exit planning, no doubt about it. If you compare to baby boomer and Gen Xer, baby boomers widely consider one of their core values success. So whether that's their business, their golf game, their marriage, whatever it is, they want to feel, and when things that they spend a ton of time in and have passion for, they want to be successful at. Not to say that Gen Xers don't feel that way, but widely considered for them is their core value is their time. Now that matches many other characteristics. Kind of comparing back to the baby boomers, we find that the baby boomer is the inventor of the 60-hour work week, whereas the Gen Xer values their time and would prefer to work smarter, not harder, and would challenge the baby boomer to say, I can get something done in 40 hours or 30 hours that might take you 50 or 60. Or they might challenge the baby boomer to say, are you really working, or are you just busy trying to work, right? So I think generationally, Gen Xers are prime time. They value a work-life balance. So the three-legged stool approach that our CEPAs believe in, I think fits well. They value time. They want to work smarter, not harder. They want to use technology to optimize time. And they believe, kind of like my life lesson back in 2010 when I sold my company, that their business should not define them. So they're naturally feeding into most of the stuff that we're teaching. I think the challenge over the next 10 years, or the challenge certainly right now, is to take those natural characteristics that somebody today in their 40s and early 50s have naturally, and put it into framework and process that we call value acceleration. But I think undoubtedly the next 10 to 15 years, Gen Xer or baby boomer, we will be attempting to exit companies at a rapid rate. And I think that it's going to be a hell of a market for us as certified exit planning advisors. And I think it'll be a hell of a market for us as an exit planning community if we can get to the owner early and do things right. Worst case scenarios over the 10 to 15 years, we see really no success. We see the same characteristics that we all kind of grew up in this profession with, and nothing is changing, right? So I think it presents some, very critical challenges that we need to take seriously as certified exit planning advisors and people that operate in the overall community. But I think challenges and hurdles that are easily broken down as we begin to even deeper and further educate really a whole marketplace, both advisor, owner, academic, media, people that really follow this space. I think that if I had to say the next 5 years, the next couple of years, the early stages, round one, if you will, of this 10-year run that I'm talking to, I don't know if this is if this will happen or not, but I think that if somebody pushed back and challenged and said, Scott, well, where do you think maybe some of the threats, the weaknesses, the pain points might be? I think that a lot of people, obviously, whether you're a corporate buyer, private equity group, a lot of people maybe that are buying family businesses, not gifting them, but buying them, a lot of individual financial buyers, right? They take on debt, they take on loans to finance a portion of the purchase of a business. And with rising interest rates, I think that everybody tends to kind of tighten their belts a little bit. I think that buyers are trying to buy really good companies, but at the same point, if you have a good company, you likely have a larger multiple. And I think that, which means that it might not mean that the bank doesn't finance them, but it might mean that the bank becomes more selective or more critical of who they're financing. And I guess that could be good or bad, right? Because from a certified exit planning advisor standpoint, that would mean that risky companies may struggle. So I think for us and our pitch back to the owners about having a company that's mitigating risk, a value acceleration centric business, a company of not just successful, but of significance, I think that really plays to everything that we believe in and teach to the market and to business owners. And I think that what happens then with the banks is that we need proof. We need to be able to show the bank that it deserves a larger multiple because of both tangible and intangible value and the growth trajectory still to come for this company. So I do think that maybe in the short term, I don't know about in the long term, in the short term, 2 to 5 years, may present some struggle for people trying to sell. But I think it also provides opportunity and maybe even a better case to appropriately implement value acceleration into your company. Start now, start early, so that you can have proof of a solid company that deserves a high multiple that a bank should back. So kind of looking at some of our other statistics that we see, I'm going to use the Colorado State of Owner Readiness Survey. So a really interesting survey. If you haven't had a time to go into your member center, if you're a CEPA, and download it. If you're a non-member, we can send it to you. I think very interesting in the sense that it was powered by our Rocky River or Rocky Mountain chapter, but nonetheless, it was backed by the governor's office. So I had a kind of a rare and maybe unique, maybe once in a lifetime kind of a experience where I got to introduce and speak alongside the governor of the state of Colorado, who backed this survey because in his particular state, they believe, and it was interesting for him to kind of hear his opinions, that I think a lot of people in his position and a lot of people in economic development tend to focus on keeping the big corporate people there, the people that employ hundreds, if not thousands of people. Here in Cleveland, we might think about Key Bank, Sherwin-Williams Paint Company. So we think about those types of people, those type of organizations, how do we keep them here? He's saying, look, in my state, I have about 640,000 small companies operating in my state, and they employ about 25% of our overall population. If those businesses can't live on, what happens to our economy, our state, our community? So they hired the Exit Planning Institute in partnership with our chapter leaders there to conduct a survey, a state of owner readiness survey, that has become really a catalyst for support locally in that state and access to support and advisors like CEPAs to help owners actively plan for this exit. So it's our freshest survey, came out, I think that was late September, early October. So I'm going to lean on that a little bit for recent stats. So in Colorado, 53% of the owners said they wanted to sell their businesses in the next 5 years. And if you looked at the United States as a whole, all generations, all small business and lower middle market business owners, the average age of a business owner this year is 53 years old. So 53% said they wanted to sell in the next 5 years. The average age collectively of the lower middle market and small business market in the United States is 53. So though I think we'll have a big 10 to maybe even 15-year run, if we're using the state of Colorado's state of owner readiness survey as any example, I think that we find 53% want to sell in the next 5 years alone. I think, again, that makes sense. If you look again, stretched to 10, the youngest baby boomer is 68. So I think that we're certainly well on our way to a rapid wave of exits. I think interesting enough, I heard this from a couple of CEPAs, and I think that it is true. I think that we'll see a lot of boomerang exits for baby boomers. So they'll actually have multiple exits. I think it's interesting because I think that we think of younger generations as people that potentially have hybrid models of exits or multiple exits, multiple companies. Again, the baby boomers, is the inventor of the 60-hour work week, core value success, very passionate, very active individuals. I think for many of them, they think they're going to sit at their lake houses. They're going to play the golf game, travel. But I think that if you look back at the state of Colorado research, you'd find that nearly 50% of them were looking to do something else. If you looked at the next stat from there, we find that 32% said, what I want to do in the next act of my life, next phase, well, I want to buy or at least invest in another business. And 30% said that they would like to consult, which for me is kind of like starting another business, right? We're starting a consulting company where we're going to go out and consult other business owners to have hopefully very significant exits. So I think that we'll see these come around again business owners that exited at 60 or 65, bought maybe a franchise, bought something with their son or daughter, bought something with a younger successor, a built-in successor kind of business. I think you'll see become more popular, where they might be going into business with somebody 15 years younger than them and working them into the business as an owner and providing equity in either gifting form or purchase form. I think that we'll see even stronger family businesses because I think Gen Xers and millennials are more open to having tough conversations with mom and dad. So I think that, again, we're also operate companies a lot different than our mom and dad did. Again, inventors of the 60-hour work week, work-life balance. So when the next generations of owners in their 40s and in their 30s come in, I think that we'll still see kind of a hungry generation of owners, but a much more perhaps balanced generation of owners, or somebody that is at least trying to, right? Somebody maybe that's not in value acceleration yet, struggling to kind of balance or blend their life with the other aspects of it and looking for something to help them do that. I think undoubtedly we will see more empowered management teams. I think if you looked at our own business, Exit Planning Institute, over the last 2 years, we've done a really nice job of decentralizing Chris from the operational side of the business. Now the challenge is to decentralize me. And to do that, we need to empower our management team and thus empower really the entire organization to really take some ownership and pride in what they do and really have the kind of, and as an owner and as an executive, give all of our people at EPI, and I would challenge any owner with this, is that just posted about this actually on my LinkedIn page today, is that I think employees today want an opportunity to be independent, an opportunity to kind of make their own way, and an opportunity to have purpose in what they do and purposefully grow in what they do. So maybe a different type of employee in today's market. And I think that if we can do these things as owners and as advisors, we will become a more significant organization with much more empowered teams that allow the owner to decentralize and really create something of more value. And last but not least, kind of playing off some of the other stats in our work with the state of Colorado, I think what we'll find is a lot more government organizations that worry about their economic environment, their economic well-being, and their community overall, paying more attention to what folks like the EPI community and the CEPAs within it are teaching and talking about, because it'll start to they'll feel it. If we can't help owners, they will feel the impact, maybe not all the way, maybe not right away at the statewide, but certainly in our local or regional communities as well. So using some of the other stats that we saw, I think interestingly enough, in September, October of last year, with the Colorado business owner participants, we found that 33%, which I thought was notable because it was higher than ever before. 33% of owners indicated that they have high attention spent on their exit. So not no attention, not little, like we'll see next, but 33% have spent what they would consider high attention on their exit. So they're doing something. And it's different than before, mainly because I think the community is just larger. You'll see some of the statistics looking inside at EPI here momentarily, but I think that the profession is just larger than it's ever has been. I think more and more people, if they're not working with a CEPA, they're working or talking or engaging their advisors in some way, shape, or form. You find down in one of our closing statistics here, 40% of business owners have sought some type of outside advice. Though going back up at the top, we find that 67% have indicated they spent little to no time on their exit, citing three major reasons. One, I'm too busy growing. Two, I know it's important, but I'm not urgent. And interesting enough, the top three answer, I don't know how to start. So again, I think that we're starting to see, if you look back at the statistics, the age demographics, we're starting to see owners understand, or what they believe, like, I understand exit planning. I know it's important, but it's not urgent for me right now. Or plain and simple, in fact, I'm just don't really know how to start. So, but 56% indicated that they had some knowledge or understanding of what exit planning is. Yet 78% have established no formal team. And I think interesting enough, and for something maybe hopefully insightful for the future, is that a big chunk, bigger than ever before, 14% cited that their most trusted advisor was the other category. And when you looked at that, it really broke down pretty evenly amongst three others. One, they said no one. Unfortunately, apparently, Colorado business owners said, I don't know who my most trusted advisor is because I don't know if I have one. Two, one, I think that presents a wild opportunity for us. Two, they said their own team internally. I think that kind of plays into many of the surveys that we've seen in the past, where owners are citing their owner peer groups, their executive teams as some of the most trusted advisors, and last but not least, their M&A advisor coming in third. So let's talk about the future. Let's talk about us as a certified exit planning advisor community, as an EPI community overall. Roughly a year or two, maybe even 2 years ago, in 2021, I introduced this new vision of moving from change the outcome to successful to significant companies. And I think it's a big deal because I really think it plays into what we're trying to do as a certified exit planning advisor community and an EPI community as a whole. And I've led almost every presentation last year and certainly into this year by starting with this slide. And it's really a call to purpose and a call to mission for everybody that I speak to, certainly those that are professional advisors. I think that if you asked an owner, many, if not most owners, would say that they feel that they're successful in what they have done over their career as a business owner, whether they're 10 years into it or maybe 35 years into it, the kind of the entrepreneurs, if you will, that started their businesses in their garages and sheds and now have a multi-million-dollar company with dozens, if not hundreds of employees. I think that many of them would say that they feel pride in what they've done. Their product or service is on purpose. They have great employees, great experience when it comes to their customer relationships. They have a strong P&L and live a good or certainly decent lifestyle. However, they come to the point of exit and they're kind of slapped across the face because their business isn't worth what they thought it was worth. Worse yet, not worth what they need it to be worth. Or if they're looking intergenerationally, they're saying, well, shoot, my kids don't even want this business. So I think that for many years, they're very successful, but when they go for this transition, succession, exit event, they find that they haven't built something of significance. And for us at EPI and for all of us as certified exit planning advisors, a significant business that is one that's highly valuable, ready and attractive, transferable at any time, and is aligned to the owner's business, personal, and financial goals, what we know as the three legs of the stool. And that's really the outcome that we're trying to change, right? So to me, I've expanded on what Chris and Pete and Rich kind of talked to, this changing of the outcome for owners. But how do we change that outcome is moving from a very successful year-over-year business to a very significant one that's really transferable at any time. For the Exit Planning Institute community, which includes CEPAs and non-CEPAs, I would say that the state of the Institute is strong. We grew by over 60% this past year as an organization. We continue to be the most widely accepted and endorsed exit planning designation in the marketplace. I think by many, we are considered the thought leaders when it comes to this evolution of exit planning, thought process, approach, key concepts, ways to integrate and work with an owner, to intrigue and empower owners, to meet owners where they are. I think content is strong. I think thought leadership is strong. I think innovation is strong when it comes to the EPI community. Kind of by the numbers, if you will, we've surpassed 4,000 certified exit planning advisors. We'll certainly hit the 5,000 mark this year with an addition of another 1,600 CEPAs to the community. We just had 250 or so people become certified exit planning advisors just last week. So welcome to all of those that have passed their exam, completed the program, and have entered the EPI community just in the last week or so. I think many people think of EPI as an organization that's a CEPA community. I say that we're an Exit Planning Institute and EPI community because we become, when you look at people that interact in our chapter networks, attend webinars, attend the summit, download content, follow the Exit Planning Institute, we move to 10,000 non-credential holders. So we're nearly 15,000 individuals strong each year that care about, that follow, that expand their knowledge and relationships with the Exit Planning Institute each year. So really a huge, I think, footprint when it comes to 10 years ago, and I think a huge footprint in today's market as well. The Exit Planning Summit last year became the most, the largest exit planning centric event in the United States. We will surpass 700 participants this year in May when we come back to Scottsdale. We will surpass likely 30 chapters. We're at 20 chapters active today with 7 already pegged for launch. Our kind of launching chapters in the next couple of months are Fort Lauderdale here in just a couple of weeks on February 21st. We have Chino, California coming up thereafter, followed by Austin, Boston, Orlando, Dallas, and New Jersey. So I think a very robust market. I think lots of opportunity virtually and in person to get together. I think our chapters are producing better events than they ever have produced before, expanding into owners forums, owner symposiums, conducting research. We will launch our Minnesota State of Owner Readiness research this month. We've done one there back in 2017, so I think it'll be interesting to certainly understand where they have come from. We have our EPI Academy line, which EPI Academy is for CEPA or non-CEPA business owner or executive that wants to expand their value acceleration knowledge, right? And all of the elements and all of the exit planning ecosystem elements that we see today. So whether it's trying to launch a new practice, whether it's understanding how to discover value in your business, to operating a 90-day sprint, or maybe even understanding more about your exit options and everything in between, you could go to EPI Academy, CEPA, non-CEPA, owner or executive looking to expand their knowledge and take on-demand courses that are as little as 2 hours, maybe up to 6 hours long. We have 20, I think we'll be probably at about 27 courses by the end of this year, debuting 2 new courses per month starting in April. So certainly stay tuned there. I think that when we look at these 10,000 advisors operating inside of the community, this is some of the things that they're interacting with. So I think a very strong way to begin to further educate a community, especially if CEPA is not right for them for whatever reason. And as I alluded to as we opened up before, Walking to Destiny 2.0, the evolution of exit planning will launch at the end of March. So just in a about a month or two here this year. So we're really excited for that. Dad, Chris, let me join him in there. So I've contributed content based on my experience and working with all of you throughout the last 10 years. So I think, again, a big, strong evolution of exit planning is certainly underway. But I would say the state of the Institute is stronger than ever. So in my kind of closing remarks, I want to talk about some things that are new for 2023, some things to perhaps get excited about. And I want to talk to you about some of the, what I would say, key thrusts or key capabilities to keep CEPAs at the top, really driving this overall marketplace and profession. So number one, I think that we as CEPAs need to be able to deliver transformational experiences for the owner. We need to really need to bring this all together so that maybe you can feel this when you came through the CEPA program. You had this kind of huge aha moment, this big motivator, this kind of jolt of energy within you, where you kind of rejuvenated in your career path and your practice and really wanted to take this and really implement it to owners. I think we need to deliver that same wow moment to the business owner so that they understand what exit planning is and they can get excited about it and actively start investing not just time, but money into the process. Two, I think it's one of the biggest things that CEPAs do today that we need to continue to do. We need to be a connector of people. We need to be an example of collaboration, example of excellent communication, and we need to be able to connect owners with the many individuals that support them along this value acceleration path. We need to continue to be creative. We need to continue to be innovators. We do that, I think, by always sharpening our knowledge as our profession certainly evolves. And we need to have this kind of always be learning mentality that's kind of infectious. It really bleeds into our teams as professional advisors, bleeds into the owner and their teams, this kind of point of innovation. I think if we could focus on some things over the next year, we need to focus on building our robust team, this old school Rolodex of advisors, so that we have estate planning attorneys, M&A advisors, family enterprise advisors. We also have some functional people, a leadership coach. We have executive coaches, people in HR, people in marketing and sales strategy. A lot of the partners that you see a part of the EPI partner network. These more functional people that come in and out of an equation based on what we're digesting and hearing when we listen to the owner and ask the right questions versus tell them the right answers. If we have this robust team, we can easily start to connect owners to the right experts along the way. We need to advance our approach, both from I would say a digital presence standpoint, meaning our websites, our downloadables, the content that we're sharing, and also in our conversations, the way we're approaching owners, the way we talk to them at an owner's event, at the golf course, at the bar, wherever you're actually talking to that owner. We need to kind of advance our approach. We need to begin to intrigue the owner before we empower. And once we've empowered the owner, we need to start taking them down the value acceleration methodology. And you heard me say it before, I think it's still a young profession. Pete and Rich created the Exit Planning Institute in 2005 with their first CEPA program in 2007. So we're not even 20 years old yet. And I think that it's evolving. I think that as we embrace and take on the challenge of helping owners immediately exit over the next 5 to 10 years, we'll have an opportunity to continue to evolve and have a lot of case studies about how this is actually implemented. So sharpening our knowledge and staying ahead of the game, I think, is going to be critical for us. New for 2023 for the Exit Planning Institute, maybe a handful of things. Number one, the Exit Planning Summit. If you haven't been, you're missing out. I would suggest that you come. It certainly embraces experiences, people, and innovation. We have some great content this year and a lot of relationship building opportunities there as well. I guess almost a month ago now, if not a month ago, we launched the Exit Is Now podcast, where I am your host. We go live every other Wednesday, so we will be live tomorrow via my LinkedIn page and EPI's Facebook page. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and all of the replays can be heard at all of your podcast platforms as well on EPI's YouTube channel. Why I think it's important is because I took a different look at the podcast, and I want to educate people about exit planning by telling my own value acceleration, story. I think I always laugh that my book one day will be growing up through the value acceleration process. Think tanks, they're held every other Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern time after the markets have closed. It's a time for you to network with each other. There are over 4,000 CEPAs in the market today. We introduce a hot topic for about 20 or 30 minutes, and that let you guys network and talk about this hot topic for about 30 minutes amongst each other in small and more private and intimate groups. It's a great opportunity to see a lot of the cool kind of hot topics within our space. I think an even better opportunity to every other week develop relationships with certified exit planning advisors from really across the world, certainly across the United States. Every other Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern. I think they actually just had one yesterday. You could go into your member center, email my member experience team, get involved in these think tanks. I think it's well worth an hour of your time every other Monday. You heard me talk to the chapters and the growth that we see there. Certainly tune in and follow. Same thing with the EPI Academy courses. If you have courses that you're interested in, please send us recommendations. We're trying to develop stuff that certainly you can use immediately and has a positive impact. And last but not least, our footprint, our digital ecosystem. This year, within this first quarter, here just really in a couple of weeks, we will launch phase one of maybe a two-phase process where we have brand new Find a CEPA website, learning management system, kind of a fresh take, given the kind of 10-year anniversary of the value acceleration methodology, a fresh look at the Exit Planning Institute with an online forum to follow. What I mean by an online forum is basically a Facebook or LinkedIn for our EPI community, a place where you can dive in and share different opinions and thoughts and content, deals you might have, questions you might have, advisors you might want to talk to, jobs that you have opened, people that you're looking for to connect. So I think certainly a fun year. I leave you with this. As always, I said this last week to our new CEPAs, I do not want you to think about Exit Planning Institute as another credentialing organization. I want you to think about us as a partner in exit planning, someone that gives you the tools, knowledge, and relationships and community needed to drive more positive exits, drive more positive impact for owners, and connect with each other along the way through the various things that I kind of just went through. If you're a certified exit planning advisor, particularly a Credential Plus member right now, I would suggest that you dive into your member center. There is a massive, robust set of content for you, from archived webinars that could help with your knowledge building to infographics, one-pagers, tools, research that you could use on your social media pages to continue to educate the business owner market along the way. So with that, I will look over here at the questions box, see if we have some questions along the way that I can answer. If you do, please feel free to throw any in right now, and we'll wrap up here in another few minutes. Scott, will our slides be available? Yes, our slides can be available to all of our participants for sure. Absolutely. We will likely place this recording into your member center, share it on all of our social media platforms, perhaps put it on YouTube so you'll be able to watch this broadcast there. Okay. The schedule is out for the summit. Go to exitplanningsummit.com, click agenda. You'll see the 2.5-day agenda listed there. Just hired our keynote speaker for our event, which will be out here in the next week or so. So please stay tuned to all of our social media platforms. It leads me to say, if you're not, for whatever reason, following LinkedIn or following EPI, or me for that matter, on something like LinkedIn, please take a moment, linkedin.com, type in Scott Snider, type in Exit Planning Institute, hit follow so that you can stay in tune to a bunch of the new content. Please pay attention to your emails. If you're not getting emails, you should be getting weekly updates and monthly member roundups. Please kind of check in on those as well. If you're not getting anything, certainly email your member experience team as well. Okay. All right, everybody. I think that we are set. So with that, everybody, I really appreciate you hanging out for an hour or so with me on your Tuesday, I believe it is. With that, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. Please stay tuned to the Exit Planning Institute. And please remember that we're your partner in exit planning along the way. We thrive on helping you grow your practice, connect with owners, and connect with each other. So thank you all very much, and hopefully we see you very soon. Thanks.